And look, we brought our own two shiny Ferraris out of the garage. I love that quote from Jurgen Klopp. And the reserves, Michael, got the job done for Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a very good performance. Of course, it wasn't as slick as potentially, you know, the Salahs and the Manes when they're all playing and all the rest of them. But to get a result away from home in the Premier League, making 9 changes from the previous, and you know, Jurgen Klopp mentioned it there. You know, players that have just been brought out literally from the cold. I mean, Harvey Elliott. Curtis Jones has been in and around. There's so many different players that have just not tasted enough football this season. So to get the result, to now, you know, the players that didn't play, now they're fresh and they're ready to go for the final 2 biggies of the season.
Yeah, I know you were working together last night on Matchday Live, but you were probably rubbing your hands together a little bit, Shay, when Southampton took a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, Southampton started pretty well, actually. It took Liverpool a while to get into the game, we felt, last night watching the game. And it was a brilliant strike where there was maybe a foul in the lead up to the goal. We both sort of agreed last night, I think it was a foul in the edge of the box, and VAR didn't get involved. They said, in their opinion, the referee got it right, but we felt it was wrong. But take nothing away from Redmond, he's cut inside and had a brilliant strike. It took a little flick off James Milner on the way in, but a brilliant goal for Southampton. And as you can imagine, the blue half of Manchester were getting the drinks on ice or whatever. But you know, we knew this Liverpool team, even with 9 changes, well, they're still a strong squad. Some great players that even played last night and not played for a while. So they deserved the second half, I think.
Yeah, let's look at that first goal then, because there was a foul, wasn't there, from Lianco on Jota? Shouldn't have stood, should it?
No, I don't think many referees as well watching it, even VAR, they're probably looking at it thinking, oh, it is a foul, but can we bring it back all the way? You know, is it clear and obvious? But I think everybody agrees that was a foul.
This is still one phase, though, isn't it?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean, if they believe that it was a foul, then it's certainly in the right phase, in the same phase to bring it back. But take nothing away from the strike. It does take a little deflection. We know what Jurgen Klopp thinks about it. Those reactions say everything. But there's no touch on the ball whatsoever. And even if there was, he's come through Jota to get it. Yeah. So I defy anybody to say that's not a foul. And it would have been in a dangerous position as well for Liverpool to have an attack. But it was a decent finish, eh?
Brilliant finish. I mean, Alisson had no chance, and I think the little touch off Milner there gives the goalkeeper no chance. But yeah, for me, it was a definite foul. I think there was an angle. Martin Atkinson points at the ball. He thought the defender got the ball, but he clearly didn't. He got the player. And we spoke to Dermot Gallagher in the show last night. We were giving him a bit of stick off there. He was sticking with the referee.
He gets enough stick as it is.
He says he was close enough, the referee, to make that decision, but we definitely felt it was a foul and the goal should not have stood.
Yeah. And look, one of those Ferraris that Klopp was talking about, the dusty Ferraris that he can bring out and still do the job, was Takuma Minamino. And what a goal from him. And actually, his last Premier League goal separated, in terms of when he started a game for Liverpool, by 514 days.
Yeah, which is really strange because he's actually scored a fair few goals this season, but obviously they've been in cup competitions. But this was so important. To score a goal before half-time was really key. Redmond there, ball watching. Salisu was, you know, tried to cut out the ball. He, you know, tries to stick his neck out and he gets in the wrong position as well. I love that little second touch of Minamino. First touch is okay, but it's not out of his feet. He just needs that second one. And then Shay mentioned it last night, the way the ball just pops up nicely, gives you a lot more power on the ball when it's
Shades
just
of Owen, that, isn't it? Taking a few more touches. But you know, brave to take those touches, because sometimes you'd be accused then, oh, look, he took too many touches.
Yeah, but if your first touch isn't right, then you've got to have another touch. But they're hard touches to take. When you're running at full pelt and you're trying to take a tiny touch to then hit the ball on the same movement, they're quite hard touches to take. And a lot of the time, you say it's a Michael Owen finish, I didn't really go for power a lot of the time. But in that situation, I don't think you've got any choice. You've just got to hit it to not give the goalkeeper time to react to it. If you're trying to go for placement there, I think the angle's a little bit tight. So good decision, good selection of finish, and you know, he executed it well as well.
And not a lot McCarthy could have done at that angle from a keeper's point of view.
No, I think as Michael mentioned, the little jump at the end, the ball just sort of sat up a couple of inches off the ground, and that made him hit it even more flush. And from that distance, and people talk about near post with the goalkeeper, for me, McCarthy's no chance. It's actually flew past him because he's got full power behind it from very, like 5 or 6 yards away.
Yeah, it felt inevitable that they were going to go on and win the game, didn't it? Even at that stage, is that the feeling you got before Matip put that one away?
I think so. As soon as they got that goal back, then it sort of just relaxes you a little bit. And I think from that moment on, after 20 minutes of the first half, after that, I think Liverpool were pretty much in control a lot of the time. And obviously, you've got to capitalise on pressure with a goal. But to go in at half-time 1-1, I think they were reasonably comfortable, bearing in mind they had some game changers on the bench as well, if needed. And again, second half, they were pretty much in control. I don't think Southampton really laid a glove on them last night.
Yeah, well, this is the winner from Joel Matip. A little bit of fortune in it, Shay?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the near post guy maybe should do better, head that higher and away, and then I think it's Walker Peters who flicks it onto Matip, and it's just, I don't know, he's actually going to head at Matip, and I don't know if you know much about it, because the defender just flicks it before him here, and you can see the spin, the way the ball spins up into there. You know, it's very difficult for the goalkeeper to read it, but you see here just a little touch, just here, heads it up, and Matip's bending down to it. It's, if you're being honest, Michael, there's a bit of luck involved in that goal.
There's loads of luck. And to be fair to Matip, he came in and did an interview after and said he knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously trying to put his head towards the ball, but when the ball flicks up into your head, it can go anywhere. Fortunately for Liverpool, it went looping into the top corner.
Sometimes you talk about luck and title races and stuff, and that's a big bit of luck, I think, in that instant. And we talk about the last game of the season later in the show, but what I'm saying is sometimes you need a bit of luck to be champions as well, and I think there's a little bit of luck to touch that goal, and just from a Man City point of view, I hope it's not a major bit of luck come the weekend.
Yeah, and look, no matter what happens, and we'll talk about the final day, of course, over the next hour or so, but that was their 61st game of the season, Liverpool. They're going to play the maximum that they can play this season, because obviously replays were abolished in the FA Cup, so they can play 63 games, and that's what they're going to do with the Champions League final in Paris. They're the only Premier League team not to lose a game in 2022. They are the mentality monsters, as Klopp says.
Yeah, and they've I mean, James Milner mentioned there in the interview as well, a little reset around the turn of the year, because things weren't going perfectly in the league, and since then it's just been unbelievable. They've chased City down. You know, there were 14 points difference. I know Liverpool had 2 games in hand as well, but it's still, even if you say it's 8 points, it's still a fair amount to try to catch Manchester City. And of course, in all the cup competitions, they've been absolutely foot perfect as well. So, I mean, they've been, I was going to say fortunate then, but I don't know if there's a lot of fortune in it. Their squad has been very, very fit all season. They've hardly had any big injuries. So that really helps when you're rotating players, and you can afford to rotate players and take them to, you know, the end of the season like this. So you remember the last season when the likes of Van Dijk were missing for most of the season, and other key players. You know, everything came crumbling down, but this season everyone's been fit and they've been different class.
Yeah, and that man we just saw there, Jurgen Klopp, saying that, you know, winning the Premier League title on Sunday is unlikely, says Jurgen Klopp, but possible, and that's all they can hope for, isn't it?
Yeah, well, definitely. As I said, I think at one point there was 14 points gap, but yeah, they had 2 games in hand, Liverpool, I think, on Manchester City, but to keep grinding out the results, and you say that in many games, well, is unbelievable. Every 3 days they put that effort in, and the fitness levels of this team, Liverpool, is just phenomenal, and the players in the background just popping in, popping out, playing a certain amount of minutes. With 9 players changed last night is just to keep them up fit as well. And as you mentioned, Ferrari's coming out of the garage, they're a bit dusty, maybe coming out the first 20 minutes, but after that, once the engines got rolling, you know, the squad of players that they have assembled, not just Jurgen, but the recruitment team, the people behind the scenes at Liverpool deserve a lot of credit as well. Yeah.
So look, this is the 9th time that the Premier League title is going to be decided on the final day of the season. Manchester City, if it's an omen at all for your old team, Shay, have done it on the last 3 occasions. And I'm sorry, Michael, one of those occasions was in the 2011-2012 season, the Aguero moment, of course, the 13th of May, where this happened in the 93rd minute and 20 seconds. And you were at Sunderland at the time, Michael, expecting to win the Premier League back-to-back.
I was, yeah. I was stood there on the side of the pitch thinking, there's another Premier League in the back pocket. You can see me there. I haven't changed, have I, since then? But on a serious note, we heard coming through, somebody shouted, "Oh, Manchester City have scored." Yeah. And then literally, what seemed like about 30 seconds later, they said, same person said, "Manchester City have scored." We said, "We know, it's still 2-2. And he goes, "No, they've scored again, it's 3-2. It's like, what, 2 goals in the last couple of minutes? He said, "Yeah." And that was it. It was just like, oh my word, we were literally, you know,
what happened in the sort of hours after that? Was it just silence?
Oh, you know? yeah, just silence, yeah. I mean, you obviously would plan to then go out and celebrate and, you know, an impromptu party and everything. And of course, you know, prepare for a trophy parade, all the things that come from winning something. And when you're thinking, QPR were 2-1 ahead, like virtually, well, into injury time, you think, it's all over. Yeah. And, I mean, it's got to be the most iconic Premier League goal of all time. I mean, it was just staggering. Yeah, I mean, look, this game, and we'll talk about Manchester City's side of it later, but it does smack of the sort of QPR situation, doesn't it? But also a reminder of the table in the 18-19 season going into the final day, which obviously City ended up winning that trophy by a point. And have a look at this one, because this is after 37 games with Manchester City 95 points, Liverpool
94 points, and a season where they just pushed each other to the absolute max.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about obviously Liverpool last night and the job that Jurgen Klopp was, but you can't forget what Manchester City have done as well. And James Milner mentioned in his interview, they're chasing down an unbelievable, brilliant side as well. If they won the league, obviously on Sunday, it's 4 titles in 5 seasons. It's you know, talk about the great teams in the past, Man United, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, whoever you want to mention. But this Manchester City, sometimes I feel don't get the credit they deserve, because to do that season in, season out against Liverpool, one of the best Liverpool sides of all time as well, let's not get away from that. They deserve, I think, more credit than they get. So I think Pep's last 5, I read yesterday, so I was doing some reading up yesterday. Well, it doesn't happen very often, but I was doing some reading up, and his 5 seasons in the Premier League, the last game of the season, he's not lost a game, Pep Guardiola. So I'm hoping it's 6 in a row come Sunday and they get the job done, because I feel they deserve it over the course of the season. Yeah,
and look, with that Champions League final, Michael, against your old boys Real Madrid, 6 days after the final Sunday, can he risk putting out the second choice Ferraris again, or does he have to go stronger, given that Manchester City could be 1-0 down and they've got to do the job?
Well, he will definitely play a stronger team, but he won't risk the players that are obviously slightly injured at the moment, if it is indeed a risk. So you're looking at Van Dijk, you're looking at Fabinho and Salah. They're the 3 main players that are struggling at the moment. You would think all 3 of them are going to be fit for the final. Can they be fit for the weekend is another matter. If there's any doubt whatsoever, I don't think he'll play them. But he will bring back the likes of Diaz and Mane and players like that. I think he went so many changes yesterday, not necessarily because of what's coming, the last game of the Premier League season and the Champions. It was more what's gone on beforehand. 3 days later, they played 120 minutes. And not just 120 minutes, but, you know, the emotion of the whole thing as well. So I think it was more to do with that, and now I think he'll go strong and strong again. And you think they've just got to block that Champions League final out? How hard is that to do as a player, though, knowing that? And also when you see some of your friends dropping like flies and thinking they might not play, you know, in Paris against Real Madrid, but you've still got to be able to be in a position to win that. And look, the quadruple is still on. It's unlikely, but it's on. Yeah, there's a risk to not playing your strongest team on Sunday. I think every manager and every player would tell you the next game is the most important game, and if it comes down to the last game of the season and Klopp's rested the Van Dijk or a Mane or a Salah when he probably could have played with maybe, should we say, an injection or some sort of pain-killing thing to get them through that game. If Villa get one up again in the Etihad and these guys resting in the stand, you'd never forgive yourself, would you? Thinking the quadruple, we could have done it. So I think Michael's right. I think he will go a lot stronger on Sunday, but not risking Van Dijk if he's a big risk for the final. I think he won't risk him. Yeah. Well, look, as for Manchester City, we've spoken to Pep Guardiola in the last 24 hours ahead of his side's final game of the season against Aston Villa, and the City boss has been praising the strength of the Premier League this campaign. Aston Villa for Manchester City on the final day of the season. You're going to be there, I'm going to be there, you're going to be there, you'll be working on it. You're going to be in the studio? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it, the final day, because anything could still happen. As I said before, it does smack of the QPR situation. I know QPR weren't as good as this Villa side, but just City having to beat a team on the final day, and the Premier League trophy is theirs. Interestingly, every team that's been top of the Premier League on the final day in the history of the Premier League has gone on to win it. Which is let's keep them coming. We'll keep them coming. Is that a good omen or a bad omen? City players care about that. I'm not quite sure. How do you think this is going to pan out? I've just painted that picture earlier that Manchester City could go 1-0 down. Obviously, you've got the Steven Gerrard narrative and the Philip Coutinho narrative and the Gary McAllister narrative. How's it going to pan out for you? Is it going to be straightforward, Michael? Well, let's start with the obvious. Manchester City are favourites and they're likely to go and win it. But I'm going to paint some reasons why they might not. Villa are no mugs. Absolutely no mugs. They've got some good players. They're far better than the QPR team that Manchester City only just scraped past. So there's no foregone conclusions there. Of course, you know, the last game of the season, it's always a funny time. Aston Villa, you know, nothing to play for in many ways, but they can play free. They're playing for their futures. They've got some Liverpool blood in the group, both on the pitch and on the bench. Virtually all of their backroom staff are former Liverpool employees, of course led by their manager. And look, you know him, so go on. What will he be thinking? He'll want to do it for Aston Villa because he's a professional, obviously, but don't tell me there's not a side in there that would want to win Liverpool the Premier League title. Definitely. It would endear him to the Liverpool fan. Well, is that possible? Even more. To do it even more? Is it possible? I don't know. I mean, he's probably been the greatest player of all time for Liverpool, and he has to be a Liverpool manager of the future, doesn't he? You know, it's almost an inevitability. Following Jurgen Klopp might be a little bit difficult, right? But we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it.
Well, this might make it easier if he wins this game.
Wouldn't it? Exactly. But there's no question about it. Sometimes there's just things there that you just have to stop and think, wow, is it written in the stars? Liverpool, how they've clawed their way back all this time and got into striking distance. There's going to be a twist still to come. You mentioned before, maybe Aston Villa just score first. And, you know, and that would be an unbelievable twist. And Liverpool are winning at half-time, you know, by a couple of goals, let's say. There will be something, I'm pretty sure of it. It's not a foregone conclusion, this. Despite what people think. And
look, Shay, you know that club very well, having played for Manchester City. They don't do things the easy way. I know you could say, well, look, they've won titles by 10, 20 points before, but, you know, in their blood, there's something in there. There's something bizarre.
Yeah, you go back to Paul Dickoff, even playoff final. Exactly. Some of the fans had left the stadium. He scored a late goal and went to extra time and they got promoted. But, you know, the Aguero goal we mentioned, the QPR. 2 weeks ago, Real Madrid, I thought they were in the final of the Champions League, and Man City fans we think with a couple of minutes to go at the Bernabeu, we're there, and then before we know it, they're knocked out. There is a history of not doing things the easy way. There is that, I don't know, as a Man City fan, I've got lots of friends obviously living in Manchester, and they're like, it's not done yet, you could be 2-0 against Aston Villa, we're still not over the line. There's that sort of worry and stress. But going back to Pep, I think he's kind of, his job this week will be to keep the players calm, to keep them focused. Obviously, look at Steven Gerrard's team, the system they're going to play, and really try and take the pressure off the magnitude of the game, because this is a, humongous game for the football club, because obviously they've missed out on every other trophy this season. They've all eggs in this one basket.
Well, imagine they finished trophyless having played
football. That's what I mean. Like it would be an absolute disaster, you know, and you know, this game is huge, I think, just for the whole football club. And you know, Liverpool won in the quadruple. I mean, you guys would be going on about that for a long time. I don't think the City fans would be overly happy with that, but I just think Pep's got to keep a lid on the players this week. You know, keep them calm, keep them focused, and make sure they know their jobs come Sunday.
Yeah, and look, obviously, Michael, Manchester City are going to be determined, and as you said, they should win the game. They've got the talent and the players to win the game. And look at how they reacted after the Real Madrid defeat, how they then walloped Newcastle and Wolves and scored 10 goals. But the West Ham match, you know, look how difficult West Ham made life for Manchester City. I know they were still playing and still are playing for a top 6 finish. And we've got a patched up Laporte and Fernandinho who aren't fully fit. Ake on the bench, he's not fit to start. Again, Villa will play into this one, and you can imagine Coutinho, Ings, and all the players that they've got and the pace they've got around those guys.
Definitely, Steven Gerrard will be showing plenty of videos of this West Ham game during the week to his Aston Villa players, and the attacking prowess that Aston Villa have got, as you could argue, is even stronger than West Ham's. I mean, Ollie Watkins is a real handful, and if he's going up against someone like Fernandinho, then I think it's a bit of a mismatch, size-wise, pace-wise, strength-wise.
And they'll target him like Bowen targeted Fernandinho.
Certainly will. They certainly will. And of course, Danny Ings. Villa are a team that often play with 2 centre forwards as well. They can move around their players to play that. So it'll give Manchester a challenge. And they're going to have pressure from all angles on Manchester City. Everyone expects them to win. I'm pretty sure Liverpool are going to beat Wolves. You know, Wolves aren't in great form at the moment. Liverpool are absolutely flying. So straight away, it'll be in their mind that they have to win. Draw is no good at all. So, yeah, it's all the pressures on City, and we have said, or we have seen, as Shay mentioned, City collapse in certain situations in the past.
And look, no Walker, no Diaz, no Stones. We knew that already out for the season. That was probably the worst defensive display in the Premier League under Pep Guardiola at West Ham. And I interviewed Zinchenko after the match, and fair play to him. He came out. He didn't need to come out. He had an awful game, and said that's one of the worst games he's had in a City shirt. He's going to be playing left back, as Michael said, against the likes of Watkins, Ings, and all the pace and players that they've got.
Yeah, it's a problem position for sure. We spoke about it the last couple of weeks. I think John Stones might have a chance. That's the word in the street in Manchester. Perhaps it'll be a big plus if he could make it through that game, because Fernandinho has been an unbelievable servant for the football club, but he looks like a duck out of water playing centre half. He's not a centre half. You'd nearly rather play 2 left side and Ake play him at the right side of a centre half position, because you mentioned Watkins, Coutinho, and co. There'll be Danny Ings. You know, Fernandinho just looks. I feel bad for saying that, because he's been such a great player for Man City, but he's not playing in his position whatsoever. So that's a real weakness, a real worry for Manchester City. But the problem Aston Villa are going to have is getting the ball off Man City. They're at home. There's going to be a full house at the Etihad. They're going to have, I would imagine, 70-80% possession. There'll be moments, Michael said, there'll be breakaways, there'll be counter-attacks. But I think Pep will be thinking, if we we can control the game, control possession, create chances, obviously get their nose in front, then hopefully if Fernandinho has to play there, he won't have too much to do.
Yeah. What about a more general picture for Pep Guardiola? Because if he can get this title over the line, it's a 4th Premier League title in 5 seasons for him, which would actually take him above Mourinho and above Wenger, who are both on 3, and behind Sir Alex Ferguson. A long way to go to catch those 13. But in terms of domination, this is what he was brought to the Etihad for, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was. He was also brought to the Etihad to win the Champions League. So.
And he'd bash him with that stick straight away.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean...
You can't give him some credit, mate.
There will be, definitely, there'll be still people like me that will say things like that straight after. There is no question no question at all about his ability in terms of, as a coach, I mean, tactically, he's got to be the best manager in the world. So there's absolutely no questions about that. He's assembled a great team, he buys well. His teams are great on the eye. He's won, 3, maybe about to be 4 Premier League titles. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time once he retires. So nothing but praise for him. Of course, this season will always be tinged. I mean, winning the Premier League will soften the blow, won't it? But I mean, I'm sure he's still feeling the scars from the semi-final against Real Madrid.
Yeah, look, Harry Hindsight's a wonderful guy, isn't he? And he gets everything right. But if I'd said to you, Shay, and to the Manchester City fans at the beginning of the season, if City had the opportunity on the final day, given that we were supposed to have 4 teams in a title race, Manchester United weren't quite in it at all, were they? But going into that final day, that you got the chance to beat Aston Villa and win the Premier League title and not win any other trophies, would they have taken that with the squad that they had and the investment they made?
Possibly. I still think Michael's right. I think Pep was brought to the club for Champions League success as well. But at the same time, I think most players and managers around the world, the Premier League's probably one of the toughest to win. And even Pep said that himself. He's been obviously to Spain, he's been to Germany, and these are tough leagues also. But he's been here now for 5 years, and he said this league by far, there's no easy games. We mentioned Aston Villa in his piece there as well. There's no easy games. Week in, week out, every team gives them problems, gives them troubles. But where we are, well, there's no point in looking back and go, would you take that at the start of the season? They're in the position now, and I don't think they would change that if you had said to them at the start of the season, because even Chelsea at the start of the season, they just on the back of beating Man City last year in the Champions League final. They were one of the favourites for the Premier League this year. They've obviously fallen off. Liverpool, phenomenal team, phenomenal squad. And now we're coming into the last game of the season. I think it would have snapped your hands up to say, if you beat Aston Villa at home on the last game of the season, would you take it? 100% yes.
If you win one of the Premier League or the Champions League in a season, it's a success.
Yeah.
End of story. It has to be. So no one would turn their nose up at one of those.
What about just the FA Cup and the League Cup? Because that's a possibility for
no,
Liverpool.
that's
nice,
a different matter. Yeah. Now, I think you probably wouldn't, even though it's just sensational to win 2.
Yeah.
I think from Liverpool's standard at the minute, they're such a good team. They need to mop up as much. Like, everyone has cycles. You have to mop up as much as you can while you're really good.
Yeah.
But the big ones are obviously Premier League and Champions League. So I think, no, if you'd asked Liverpool or Manchester City, you can only win the 2 domestic cups at the start of the season, they'd probably say no. But give one of them the Premier League and one of them the Champions League, I think they'd snap your hand off.
And look, Liverpool fans will always say, Manchester United fans will always say, Arsenal fans will always say, well, hold on, you're still Manchester City. And in terms of the bigger picture of how many top flight titles you've won, you're a baby. You're right down there. The added narrative for this game as well against Aston Villa is that City can go above Aston Villa into 5th of titles won overall, not just Premier League but top flight. Obviously Manchester United top of the pile. You've got Liverpool in 2nd, Arsenal in 3rd. Who's in 4th? Quiz question.
Chelsea? No.
Put you guys on the spot.
Leeds?
Pre-Premier League days.
Oh, pre-Premier League.
No Leeds. So someone between what would be Manchester City and Aston Villa. Merseyside.
Oh, Everton.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't have said
There you go. So, I mean, look, I guess the question is, even if you, as a Manchester United fan watching, are Manchester City likely to get nearer their 20 titles than before Manchester United win a 21st?
Probably get closer, but they've got a long way to go to worry Manchester United fans.
Yeah, but that, I mean, this is the thing for City fans, isn't it? It's what they all dreamt of. And you mentioned the name Paul Dickoff. I mean, any City fan who went to Wembley that day wouldn't have even thought they'd watch their team win a Premier League title, let alone going for 4 and 5.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's not that long ago. You know, we're only talking, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, I mean, 20 years ago, maybe Paul's watching, but no, the history of the club, it takes time to build it up. And of course, obviously, with Sheikh Mansour coming in and Khaldoon, they've come, obviously, with the wealth. They've brought in some amazing players, one of the best managers in the world. You know, they have had the right backing off the pitch. And I've said before, is the good thing about Sheikh Mansour, when he came in, it was like, is he going to come in long term? Is he going to come in for a couple of years? We've seen owners in the past come in and just flip it and make a quick buck. But he's actually said from day one, this is a long term project. I'm here for the long term of this football club. And I want to make as good as Man United or Liverpool thing. And yes, it'll take time, of course it will. But you can see what they've done both on and off the pitch in Manchester. That, you know, the money they put into the city is absolutely phenomenal, and they are here for the long haul. So they will hopefully, I think, gradually pull that. It'll take time, of course it will, but they'll catch up on their neighbours, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone will always just throw, oh yeah, we spent all this money and you've done all of this. But actually, and including Liverpool as well, they've been really clever signings, particularly when, now we're talking about City, the actual model, and including Erling Haaland, £51 million essentially. They've been players between the age of 21 and 26, even when Kevin De Bruyne came in, pre-Pep Guardiola. They've all got real resale values, and they're all at the, you know, players who aren't at the top of the game already, maybe with the exclusion of Haaland. You know, that model has worked for them with Cheeky Bagirstein and Ferran Soriano behind the scenes. It
is. I mean, it sounds very easy to the outside, doesn't it? If you've got loads of money, then you should be able to buy yourself success. But there's been plenty of tried and plenty of failed. And I think they've been a real good advertisement of how to do it properly over the years. And the other thing is that most Premier League teams are very wealthy now anyway. I mean, anybody can afford most players. You're looking at teams like Leicester and West Ham. I mean,
well, Everton has spent £600 million under Mashiri.
Exactly. I mean, so there's a lot of wealthy teams, but having wealth just doesn't mean success. You've still got to be able to attract these teams, the history of your club, the size of your stadium, facilities, your training ground, the players that are there currently. All these things go into the pot when a player's looking at who to sign for. So I think you've got to give them an awful lot of credit. Obviously, they've had the money, but they've spent it wisely.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to control yourself in the Matchday Live studio?
We'll see.
If Liverpool go up and City are one down at half time.
Oh my word, imagine it. I'm getting excited
Best
already.
behaviour. What a day we've got in store then on Sunday. Look, the title race going to the final day, and so is